It's KBKW's Coffee Talk. It is 9:11. We have Stephen Arms back with us. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
Stephen.
Pleasure to be here, as usual.
Hey, I took some Claritin today, and I've been unclear most of the morning. Wow, in fact, we started very early this morning because Boss Bill was, there, irate about the summit and so on and so forth. And it's like, well, Putin's playing Trump, but Trump plays everybody. And so it may be they're playing with each other, sort of. But I still think that in the mind of President Trump, that he wants to be allied somewhat with Russia, and partly to kind of balance what China can do, because they're the largest country in the world. What size-wise is Russia? I think Russia might be slightly larger than China.
You mean geographically?
Geographically, I think
they're close to the same size.
Okay.
Population, not even close.
No,
of course.
Well, no, and that's one of the reasons why they're the second tier, or I shouldn't say they're second in.
Financial power?
Financial power or whatever you call it. Economy. Their economy is second to ours, and probably will surpass it, mainly because they got so many people to buy things, and
they've got a built-in market when you have a billion people.
Oh yeah. So they don't have to keep sending their stuff out here to other places. They've got a country that's growing, that's going to keep consuming things for years to come. But I just think that's one of the ways that President Trump feels he can kind of balance the world order somewhat.
I would agree with that. I think also the fact that Russia and the United States have 90% of the nuclear weapons in the world. It is a good idea to realize that. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of people, various pundits and mouthpieces and stuff talking about it. The Russian bear is not Canada, it's not France, it's not even Germany these days. It is dangerous, and we've done sanctions on them forever, and they're still here. Their economy is on the verge of collapsing for at least the last 20 years I can think of that I've been hearing that. I mean, I think you need to be careful with Russia. I hear a lot of people talking, be tough, be this, be that. I go, okay, but what are you going to do if you actually end up with a war with them? If Russia's economy actually gets to the point where it's going to collapse, well, the solution to collapsing economies is military aggression. Maybe they'll just take the Ukraine entirely, but maybe they'll expand out. Maybe they'll cut off the oil to Germany.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I don't believe in that 90% thing that Trump mentioned, but there is a big pull or influence that Russia has, but not only on Germany. I mean, in Europe, he was messing with natural gas supplies back 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's one thing the Russians have.
Sure.
It's one of the reasons they wanted the Crimea so much, and the Crimea got taken, and we're supposed to be hard on them. Well, taken in 2014, and fingers were shook at them, and nasty words were said, and nothing changed. Because the only reason you're going to get them out of the Crimea is by military.
But if you look at it, okay, it would be like somebody taking away. And of course, some people would probably like this, California from the United States. Wouldn't you want it back? Well, during the Soviet Union, you had all these countries that were in your orbit. Okay, mm-hmm. So pretend in their mind it's like states. Their version of the United States. Mm-hmm. Well, they lost all this territory, and so if you look back on their side of it, like, hey, what would you do if Mexico decided to take Texas away from you?
I wouldn't put my money on Mexico versus Texas personally.
No, but yeah.
But I agree. And the main reason though was warm water ports.
And then you put NATO right up to their border.
Right.
To me, that was like poking them in the eye.
And that was the issue. That's the issue they're having with the Ukraine right now. I mean, that was an issue that people ignored. But I know Trump and Putin must have been talking about it. Is that they're thinking, well, let's make the Ukraine part of NATO, and Russia says, well, then NATO's now on our border again, and we don't really want to have NATO on our border, because the whole purpose of NATO was to counter the Warsaw Pact,
exactly,
which was against the Soviet Union.
Yeah, been there, firsthand. I know what's going on because I was right there in the middle of the Cold War.
So one of the questions that people ask today is, do we need NATO anymore? I mean, if Russia's not the threat, if there's no Soviet Union, then why do we have NATO? I'm not saying that we shouldn't.
Right.
necessarily. I'm
Right.
just
Well,
putting
yeah,
that as a
but
question.
now you have Putin, who
who is aggressive,
Yeah.
who does want to create. He doesn't want to create the Soviet Union. He wants to create the Russian Empire again. That's why his fingers are in the Middle East, because there's oil and power there. That's why he's in a force in Iran. But I think that Putin and Trump are both manipulators. I mean, they're both people who are trying to persuade and make use of it. Now, should you trust Vladimir Putin? Of course not. He's former KGB. I mean, that man.
Well, yeah, but Bush was former CIA and became president.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'd trust George Bush either, but that's another argument.
Well, let's go to our listener. Whoa. Well, that ain't going to work. Try again. Yeah.
I didn't. I thought the summit was. I would be fascinated to hear what was said for the time they talked alone, and then of course that secondary meeting when they had Bolton and Pompeo and all of them in there, and they were actually hammering on and working on actual details. I mean, the press conference was who cares? I mean, it was funny, it was interesting, but I was going, boy, we're gonna. Vladimir Putin categorically denies. I thought it was funny too. Putin said the Russian government has never attempted to affect the United States election. I know the key phrase in that was the Russian government. Not that Russians hired by the government might have done it. Not that other people might have done it. But I mean, the Russian government has deniability, plausible deniability. And the fact the Russians have been trying to mess with our political system.
But we do it with all the other countries.
Well, I agree. But also, I'm shocked. They've only been doing it since Stalin's time. They've been trying to affect the United States. And the main thing was to sow discord and create chaos. And congratulations. They didn't spend a lot of money doing that, but they sure as hell succeeded. Sorry.
Oh, you can say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They surely succeeded because, I mean, look at all the chaos we have in the world right now. In the United States, all the factions arguing and screaming. I mean, last night I was watching the news and reading it and going through it and going, wow, you've got the rhino Republicans, the news media, and the Democrats are all shocked about Donald Trump. I'm sure he's like terrified of this fact since all of them hated him anyway, so why is it going to be any different now?
You know what I find interesting is that like, for instance, when we had NATO troops or American troops in Europe during the Vietnam War, the people in Germany, the people in Europe thought we were, mass aggressors, that we were fighting this huge war in Vietnam for what? And so we were considered to be a kind of an occupying force at that time in Germany, which we kind of were. Plus, Americans were the ones that were taking all the heat about being aggressive and getting in wars that they shouldn't be in, and so on and so forth. I saw that firsthand. So I mean, we don't have clean hands.
Oh, by no means.
No. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. Not doing too bad. Still wait. This is your Colorado transplant. Still waiting for the rain.
Oh, good luck.
Hey, I saw something come down on my Facebook wall this morning that kind of made me think about what's been happening over there in, with the between Trump and Putin. And it was a quote from Khrushchev in 1954. I think, where he said, we can take the United States without firing a shot. And I'm wondering if that's not happening, kind of, sort of.
Well, it's interesting. Khrushchev reminds me a little bit of Putin. Putin's Khrushchev with just a mix of Stalin in there, because I think he would murder his grandmother if he thought it was advantageous to the success of Russia. But I don't think that I would agree with that to some extent, as they're trying to undermine. They've always been trying to do this. The United States is too large to fight militarily, and of course, all during the Cold War, no one wants to. I mean, just mutual annihilation is a good deterrent to fighting somebody.
Yeah, mutual assured destruction.
I know there was no way you could win that war, and they don't want to fight that war now. But this is my problem about, a lot of people talk about wanting to make Russia desperate. Let's sanctions, let's this, that. Okay, well, what if they raise money by selling off nukes?
Right. And another thing I was thinking about was, if this isn't just, somebody was asking me if this wasn't the final nail in Trump's coffin, because he, in some respects, he is kind of helping them undermine us, by basically casting a blanket over the our intelligence agency and our law enforcement, that's been investigating him. Because at this point, we have no confidence in our president, and why can't we impeach him right now?
Well, the impeachment process is an entirely different process. It requires a lot of steps that have to be done through Congress, and it requires the Senate having to vote and have a supermajority and the Supreme Court justice, and there's a whole bunch of things on that. But I think the argument, the question that'd be more interesting is, how much confidence do the American people have in their intelligence community now?
Well, I've got pretty good confidence in them, but that's me.
Well, even though that the high up in the intelligence communities, a lot of them had been fired because they've been doing shenanigans. I mean, they're investigating this president since the beginning. As far as I can tell, I've been there. As far as I can see right now, there isn't any evidence of any crimes. I mean, there's been some side effect firing people. Manafort.
But that's stuff that he did before.
Yeah, he did before.
Yeah.
There's nothing involved with this, and that we have this investigation going on and on and on. And I'm not sure that the intelligence community hasn't damaged its own credibility also. And I don't think Trump actually trusts the higher ends of them. And the only thing probably keeping most of them from being fired is the Mueller investigation, because he's waiting for it to end. And then I think you're going to see a lot of changes in those places. I mean, it won't be the first president done it. I mean, Reagan had his Midnight Massacre. When he came into office, he fired almost all of the intelligence people and replaced them with people that he trusted.
Well, I'm gonna have to let you go because we're past our break time. But thank you for your call.
Yeah, and you guys have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. It's KBKW's Coffee Talk. It is now 9:24, almost 9:25. Now let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, your guest. I don't necessarily disagree with your statement, but I'm interested in you elaborating. A whole bunch of Republicans came out opposed to the president's comments and that ridiculous press conference and basically selling out his own intelligence committee. Your statement was, so the Rhino Republicans and the Democrats have come out against what he did. There are a whole bunch of Republicans that are on the list of people that have condemned his press conference. And how do you think that they're just to condemn the president and his ridiculous antics makes them Republicans in name only? That they have to, true Republicans would stand up for the president's ridiculous performance.
No, that isn't what I said. But the ones who came out very, very aggressively and very loud and get their faces on the media were the ones that are, the never Trumper types and whatever. I didn't say the only thing in his press conference that caused anybody any trouble was that one statement. They talked for 45 minutes and they're saying, okay, he doesn't, and all he said was that he didn't believe, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, he didn't see any reason why Russia would have done it. And now, and that is but the point on it is that, and in truth, we don't have any proof that Russia's done it.
The question that was put to him, who do you believe? Your 16 intelligence agencies that all say that they did, or Putin because he aggressively said, I didn't do it?
Well, I don't think he necessarily agrees with Putin on it, because you shouldn't believe I wouldn't believe Putin in the color of an orange. But it doesn't change the fact that, one, that the 16 intelligence community thing, that's a misnomer, because there were basically one report that was confirmed and agreed to by a bunch of other agencies underneath it. But the point of it is all this still is accusations. None of this is provable. It's like those indictments that just came out. 25 people in Russia have been indicted. Indicted doesn't mean that you have proof. Indict means that you have an indictment.
Right. But they've got names and dates and places, and they put it all in there. And the investigation didn't open up as an investigation of collusion by Trump. It opened up as an investigation into a special investigator into what happened with our intelligence community, or what happens with the Russians against our American elections. And a whole bunch of it has led to people that were in the Trump administration, but it's not necessarily a Trump collusion investigation. It was an investigation into Russia attacking our system, and it's proven that it happened. I mean, granted, you got to go to court.
Your statement is completely false. To be proven, it would have to be proven in a court of law.
Play semantics, but
it's not semantics, as it isn't the truth. You're not speaking. You're not speaking accurately. You have accusations of this. You have to be able to prove it for it to be true. And this is about it. It's never going to be proved because Russia's never going to send those people back.
Of course they're not. Never. But the intelligence agencies have provided their information, their dossiers, their different things that have shown that Russians did do it, and because they were all uniformed.
Did do what?
Meddled in our election.
How so? I mean, what did they do? You apparently have expert information on this. You've obviously read this information. You're telling me about dossiers. What did the Russians actually do? Did they hack voting machines? What did they do?
Meddled in our election. Didn't say anything about voting machines.
Okay, well then, what did they do then?
They put together the phone. God, okay, never mind. I don't really want an answer. Keep talking.
Well, we're out of time for this half hour right now, anyway, because it's
nice filibuster.
No, I gotta take a break. That's how we stay on the air, you know. Anyway, it's 9:29, and we'll be back with Stephen Arms after our break, which is about. It's KBKW's Coffee Talk. It is 9:37, and our listener line number 360-533-5259. And we have Stephen Arms with us. And Stephen, you want to reply to?
I just want to make a clarification on something that I believe the Russians have been meddling in the United States politics since the 1950s. I mean, and we've been meddling in theirs, and it's spy versus spy, espionage and counter-espionage. I mean, I'm not surprised about this at all. The internet just makes it easier in a different world. The battle now, I think, is more in cyberspace than actual cloak and dagger and spies taking people on directly. And that's what happened in the last election. And I'm sure in the election before and the election before that, it's been happening. It's just what level of influence they have on us. We just need to be ready to deal with it because they're going to keep doing it.
Well, let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Doug, and good morning, Stephen.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, I'm not surprised that you have a number of Republicans, like 16, that are never Trumpers. I mean, that happened way back, when Trump was running for election. And what you're seeing now, in my opinion, is Trump doing exactly what he said he's going to do, and that was drain the swamp. And the last two callers are just perfect examples of swamp dwellers, and they don't have anything to do now but just complain. No facts. They hate Trump, and they'll say whatever they want without any facts.
I would, to some extent, I'd agree. Well, to be fair, when Donald Trump ran for the presidency, he did make a lot of friends in the Republican Party because he took out 16 of them pretty nastily.
And he's not really a Republican. He isn't really. No, he has his own party, the Trump Party.
Well, he's basically probably what would be considered a modern individual. I remember listening to Sebastian Gorka talking about him once, and what he said in this interview, I actually believed him. That he said that Trump wants to make America safe and he wants to make America prosperous because
right. Do you think these other people would rather have Russia our enemy and throwing bombs at us?
It's a strange situation with the people that hate Trump. I'm not so sure the ones that truly hate them. I don't know whether or not they would rather have if they could have I guess example would be Bill Maher hated him and said he'd rather have the American economy collapse if it'd get rid of Donald Trump.
Exactly.
I mean, that tells you a little bit of the philosophy of those individuals. Of course, it wouldn't affect him because he's rich.
Right. Well, thanks for your time. I'll get off and let somebody else spin.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's go to our next caller. Hang on. They're going to put it on hold for me. And when it blinks, we're ready. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, I think what's being accomplished is everybody's so emotional, so wrapped up in this, and we talk about him every day, and I think we're doing exactly what the president wants. I don't like him, but he's the president. But everything, and as far as Putin and him goes, to think that they don't speak each other's language is ludicrous. They both do. I can't believe that. They're both way too smart not to speak each other's language. And the emotions, I wish we'd all take a step back and just calm down a little bit.
Well, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, in fact, I just did a video on my YouTube channel, which I guess I should plug at this point, which is Arena of History on YouTube. Go and search for it there, and you find it. I just did one talking about the idea of stress. And I don't know if I want to go into it, because probably got time, but I think people are actually letting themselves get to the point of the stress levels people are subjecting themselves to is actually affecting their ability to reason.
I agree. I'm one of those people. I mean, I'm not really sucked into it so much, but I sure see it, and I feel it from everybody. And even listening to the radio show has got me, I called in. And I'm a little scared right now. I really am. It's just a powder keg. I feel the United States is a powder keg, and it's ready to go. That's how I feel.
It was worse in the 60s, and we survived that. I remember the 60s real well.
Yeah, I remember that, too.
Yeah.
Yep. And we did, but you know what? There was respect for human beings then. We liked each other. People don't have respect anymore. It's gone. I find it here in Hopeland, but you take a couple steps out in the big world, and there's no respect there. It's a different climate in the 60s. But now people carry guns. They don't like each other. It's just, like I said, it's a scary aspect.
To me, the 60s were a lot of race riots, assassinations, war protests, and things like that. I mean, we haven't got that far yet.
No, I mean, there's some nasty protests, but I mean, in the entire protests that have happened in the last, last few years, there was one death caused by one idiot in a car who ran somebody over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good when you get right down to it. I mean, we could talk about Kent State or places like that.
Right. Hope to God that never happens again. But but the worst thing is the grade schools. That stuff, and that's the gun thing's never going to get figured out. But people carry guns, and who in the heck thinks that I'm going to go into a grade school today? What? How do you think like that? How do you get there? I don't understand it.
Those are people that are insane, and that would be a debate on whether or not we have good mental health care in this country, which I don't believe we do.
No.
And I think that's a whole other argument. That would be your solution to that. But you have good points. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody take a step back, breathe. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. Yeah, it's just it's an interesting time. But like I say, you go back and you see all the things that happened, like in the late 50s and 60s and into when the Vietnam War finally ended. I mean, that thing drug on forever. I mean, I was out of the military for quite a few years, and it was still grinding on.
And the thing about, if you start looking at the arcs of history, you can roll back into the 1920s, and we have the Communist Party in the United States after the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, and you actually had bombs exploding in the United States and people being arrested for being members of the Communist Party. I mean, you can roll back into the 1890s, and you had civil unrest in cities because you had all kinds of problems. I mean, and then the next one, I jumped back to a little thing called the Civil War. I mean, that one it was in the papers. Most people have heard of it. I mean, the United States has conflict, and we work our way through it. I mean, I think there is a level of hysteria that people have, but I think it's because they don't.
Well, they haven't lived through this stuff before.
They haven't.
Yeah, so it's new to them.
And we're also not creating. We're not creating people to be resilient as I think as we did in the past.
No, that's true.
I mean, again, the word we always hear is snowflakes. You don't. If you keep your child in a little containment bubble and never let them go out and play in the dirt, never let them have any responsibilities, never fall down and skin a knee or whatever, then you're going to have an adult that doesn't know how to deal with the world around them. I mean, but that's a family issue, and you can get into some geo-social reasons why that happens, and even politics of it. But again, we don't have that much time left today on that. So, I do agree, though, that with the caller you just had about people need to be more reasonable, taking a breath. The one thing I always tell you can always tell the people that are wrong because they're the ones that never have any sense of humor. And these
Never
days,
thought of that.
but I do. I mean, if they don't think it's funny, if they can't laugh at themselves, I mean, it's stupid. I mean, come on, we got people running around with black ninja masks on their masks saying we're Antifa. We're anti-fascists, and we're actually acting like fascists. I'm sorry, people in the Democratic Party should laugh at that because it's stupid.
Well, when they put their little masks on, they're playing a game. I mean, if you're putting a mask on your face, unless it's for protection, if you're putting a mask on your face, you're playing a little game.
Well, what you're doing also is you're taking away your identity.
Yeah.
You're becoming the same. I got news for you. The opposite of Antifa is the KKK. People running around with masks on their face, doing things they wouldn't do if you uncovered their faces.
Well, yeah, or white sheets.
Exactly, same difference, but you have to cover the face because you have to hide the identity. Yeah. Then you become part of the mob, and then you don't have any personal responsibility. Everything, it's all there. Everyone who's against you, you hate, and everyone on your side is the one you can tell because they have their little uniforms on.
Well, let's go back to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Hey, Doug. Good morning, Rich.
Hey, Rich.
Hey, I would, the politics have gotten so crazy anymore since Trump got elected. I just can't get worked up about it one way or the other. I do disagree with one thing your guest said as far as most of Russia's spying, whatever, being conducted in cyberspace, at least to the point of the poor people that were poisoned in England. Well, 3 of them would disagree with you. The other one's dead. But they, and also they routinely do this to their own journalists that, have the.
I agree. I'm not going
to disagree in any way with Putin. They seem to get exposed to the same poison or some other kind of untimely death on a regular basis. But of course, that's happening within their own borders, so that's, I guess, not relevant to the conversation. But still, in all, this is how they deal with problems, and so there's that. But I don't know. Like I said, Trump pretty much denying all the efforts of his own, the United States Intelligence Committee, including everybody, to say, well, no, if Putin says he didn't do it, obviously he didn't do it. It's just so laughably inane. If anything's going to unite Republicans and Democrats, I think he just pulled it off. So, anywho, that's all I've got. But interesting conversation, and thanks for letting me pop in.
All right, take it easy, Rich.
Okay.
Bye-bye. One of the things, though, that and Trump even mentioned it, and I okay, of all the things that if you were going to put Trump down, okay, not assassinate him, but get him out of office, and you wanted to do it legally, then you'd want to get your hands on that supposed video of the girls and him and so on and so forth. And one of the statements that Trump said is because they had a reporter ask Putin, "Do you have some video that on the president?" And of course he kind of scoffed and smiled and all that sort of stuff. And then Trump said, "Well, if they had it, it would be out by now if it existed." And I kept thinking to myself, that would be the most prized possession you could get your mitts on if to get Trump out of office. And the fact that it hasn't turned up with all the other stuff that's turned up, it has not turned up yet, makes me wonder if it does exist.
Oh, I don't think it exists. One, that whole thing is, when you check that dossier, he wasn't even in Russia at the time. It was just somebody being paid to get lots of millions of dollars to give a lot of what do they call that? Research, opposition research on them. And the problem today is, I'm not even sure today you could show a video of Donald Trump, kissing Vladimir Putin, and all they just say is it isn't real. And the problem with it is, how do you prove it's not? I mean,
an expert can. An expert can tell us something.
They say that, people say that if you're going to believe that expert. I just saw a movie with people growing and shrinking to huge sizes and riding on ants.
Oh yes,
okay.
Yeah,
I just saw that on the Wasp.
That's a good movie. I like that.
I liked it a lot too. But But I mean, I watched that movie and I said, if you have enough money and time, I'm not sure that you're going to have evidence has got to be very strange at this point, even because video, especially if you say, well, we have camera video, but if it's grainy camera video, you can do whatever you want. I'm beginning to wonder what kind of world we're going to live in when you really can't. How are you going to have standards of evidence in the future when you have the technology that can create whatever you want?
Yeah, I mean, you go to the movies and there's dinosaurs that haven't walked on the earth in 65 million years, and yet we have them in a movie and they look real.
Oh, yeah, very real, and they're eating people.
Yes. Let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning. It's
Good morning.
Jules. Morning, gentlemen. You guys are funny. So, thought being my favorite dinosaur is Tyrannosaurus Rex or the Brontosaurus. But what is going on in this world? And Doug, I know you weren't able to probably listen to it this morning, but Barack Obama was in South Africa saying a speech for Nelson Mandela's 100th birthday.
Okay.
Whoop.
I didn't hear it either.
Well, I'm sorry. Hello?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I have an incoming call. I'm sorry. So Barack Obama was on the news this morning in South Africa celebrating Nelson Mandela's 100th birthday, and it was at the end he started punching some jabs. It was quite enlightening.
Well, you know, everything that he assembled has been just about disassembled, so I can see why he might be a little irritated.
Yeah, a little bit,
right.
I would say.
I know, but he was also, like, putting some things in place about truth.
Oh,
hello.
You'll just have to go back and watch it tonight because it was quite interesting. There was a bunch of other folks on also, but he finished it off, and he was really elegant. And then at the end, there were some punches thrown. I was like, oh Lord, what's wrong with our country? Can't we all get along?
Well, I don't think America's ever got along. I think we're a country of fighters. We've been fighting since our inception. It's just a matter of fighting fair.
Right.
Yeah.
I was. My ancestors are from somewhere else. I'm not native. I wasn't born here.
Everybody's ancestors were somewhere else. Even Native Americans came here about 30,000 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to let you go because it's break time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. And it's 9:52, and the Aberdeen Museum of History will be celebrating 110 years of Weatherwax High School with the first all-school class reunion, and this will be on August the 4th, so mark that on your calendar. It will be held on the site of the old Weatherwax building, so come meet your old classmates and dance on the site of your old school. They have 8 hours of music covering 11 decades, so mark it on your calendar. That's August 4th. The event will be open not only to the alumni of the School of Weatherwax, but it's open to the general public. Tickets, or in this case, buttons, are $15, and then you'll be able to get in and do all the things. There's a lot of vendors there and a lot of great music. And also, the money raised was going to enhance the Aberdeen not library, but the museum. Enhance it, take care of a few issues they were having. Well, all of a sudden, they burned down on a weekend. I mean, it was amazing that this happened at the time, especially when they were planning this. But it's even more important that people support the Weatherwax, or I should say the museum itself, the Aberdeen Museum, and have some fun celebrating the 110th year of Weatherwax High School as well. So it should be a fun time for all. And also, of course, that money will go to restore the museum to its former glory, probably most likely, though, in another location, because they've got supports on the back of that wall. And they're big, huge iron bars that are sitting on concrete pads, and they're at an angle to hold out that back wall up. So I wouldn't think that can be restored. That building, they might be able to do it. I'm not an engineer, but
well, hopefully we can, because every community needs to have a museum, because museums are history. If we don't know where we've come from, sure, we don't know where we're going.
Well, I know they're going to be looking for another place, or maybe a new building. Who knows?
Well, we have plenty of them around Aberdeen that don't have anything in it, so you think you'd be able to find one somewhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot of activity going on that people don't realize right now, and I can't find out everything because it's off the record stuff for the time being. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully, we'll see.
So we have about 5 minutes left. Anything else that you can speak on today that you wanted to hit?
Oh, I thought I was slowing down because I thought we were running out. As far as the last ladies, I don't know what to comment on our call because I haven't seen obviously what Obama's speech is, but I do agree with you that Donald Trump's not Obama's friend since he's undermined and gotten rid of most of the things he did.
I'm amazed that Obama has been so quiet, to tell you the truth. Let's go to our listener line. Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Doug. Kirsten here. Just a suggestion. I used to be the proud owner of a cabin on Salmon Beach in Tacoma. Cabin 97 was on the National Historic Register. If the locals apply for help to rebuild the armory, they will have it. And I've been trying to get the word out, but I don't know if anybody's listening. They will supply funds, but they will insist that it be done to its original state. Monies are still available. So please spread the word, all of you, if you possibly can. I cannot start a steering committee. I just don't have the energy anymore. I started 1 year ago. We won against the DOT up in Quinault. I can't do it again, but I'm happy to spread the word. Please, all of you, check into this. That's all I have to say, and have a great day, you guys.
All right. Thanks for the call.
It's an excellent point.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's an excellent point. There's always, the historical value.
Sure.
And that building obviously has historical value.
They could rebuild it, but they probably have to rebuild the back wall from the looks of it.
They'd probably build it from the ground up. And again, it's going to have to be built to original specifications, which in modern times is going to raise the cost by about a factor of 10.
And then again, see, the museum was all in a small part of that building. When you look how big the building is,
right.
So does it have to be in a place that big?
No, it doesn't. I look at some, like I said, there's several buildings in downtown Aberdeen that are currently not being used for much, and I wonder if the Goldman Building or one like that could simply end up becoming a museum. I don't know why, other than obviously it's the Goldberg Building, excuse me, as an example, not to pick on that family, but I know that it's pretty much sitting fallow at this point. History is important. We need to keep it. We can't just throw it away. I mean, it was such a horror in my mind to know that place burned, because I had been in there and I'd done some volunteer work for him and with the old curator. And there's an amazing exhibits in there, and in things that were upstairs that you would just look at and go, wow, they don't have a place for this, but these are artifacts. These are bits of history that are important to this area and to Washington in general, and they're gone now. I mean, and once they're gone, you're not going to get them back.
It's interesting that some of the stuff they were able to save, they froze it because it was wet, and I never thought, but they freeze it in some sort of dry form, and it protects the documents until they can do whatever to restore them or whatever they do in a case of that kind.
Did they ever ascertain what caused the fire?
Not yet. It's last I heard it was still. They never said it was suspicious. It's just that they haven't figured out what the issue was. But I think they're leaning toward electrical. That's kind of where I think they're leaning. But no, they have not found a conclusive cause yet.
Well, it'd be good to know. But that wouldn't surprise me with a building that old that you could have electrical issues and in the wrong place. And again, plenty of paper. Not even the museum parts. There's all those other office spaces, and then of course the senior center, which I think is a shame. Of course, there's still the one in Holcomb, but I mean, it'd be nice to have one for the senior citizens again.
Well, I thought they were going to the Aberdeen Eagles were going to rent out one of their building, part of their building for the senior center. I when this all came about, so I don't know if that's happening or not.
I hadn't heard anything because I thought the Eagles wasn't able to. Had some permit issues recently because I know there were some events that had been canceled there this year.
Yeah, maybe that's why they're not in there yet.
Could be.
You got me on that. Well, anyway, we're going to be bringing you back, and that's going to be on, let me see, we're August. I'm looking where I typed you in.
If you wish to join the quest for knowledge, the battle for truth, please hit the like button, recommend my channel to others, and of course, subscribe. Thank you kindly.